Q&A 1.
Well, one of the big reasons I chose water and sanitation was one was the enormity of the problem, but the other was the availability of solutions. And to go and interface with the problem a little bit and see that there were these practical and easy to implement solutions, it made me feel like there was a real chance to bring attention to it and to actually have a pretty big impact. Yeah, I've met people in a number of different countries who are impacted by the water crisis, and you know, there are some pretty incredible moments. A year or two ago in Ethiopia, sitting in over a hand-dug well and watching these children who were pulling water out of this filthy hole that basically the water looked like chocolate milk. We actually put a shot up on our website of a clean bottle of water next to one of these bottles of water to give people an idea of just how filthy the water was, and to see these kids who were collecting that water in containers so that they could take it to school, so that they'd have something to drink during school, and it was just deeply affecting to know that this is a water that was so dirty that it was guaranteed to, you know, talking to some of the villagers there, you know, they knew quite well the number of children who had died in that area from drinking this type of water. So they were aware of the dangers of drinking that water, but they just didn't have a choice. And to be standing there with these kids and watching these little kids, the age of my children, smiling and taking this water that could and would in some cases make them very sick or even kill them, was a very deeply disturbing moment. And Gary White actually said to me at that moment, he saw me and he said, "I know you just want to smack it out of their hands, don't you?" He said, "But you know, what's the alternative? It's then they're dead within a few days because they've got nothing to drink." And so, to know that you're there in a place like that and 20 feet under your feet is there's water right there. They just can't get to it. That was a very kind of that had a pretty big impact on me. I think what resonates with me most is when you see people living without clean water and they're forced to scavenge for water and basically use up all of their time just doing that, just trying to basically survive to the next day. You realize that they're in such a crippling cycle of poverty that it's just a death spin that they can't possibly get out of, and the impact that has on their lives. And to contrast that with when you see somebody who hasn't had clean water suddenly have it, and how their life just changes completely, and what it means for children, not just in terms of survivability, but also in terms of their hopes and dreams going forward, a chance at a real life, a chance at getting an education. Also, as a guy who has 4 daughters, this is a huge issue for women and girls. You know, the girls are often left to leave school and go find water, and that obviously has a huge impact on the quality of life that they can expect to have. And so those are some of the things that really resonated with me about water. I think we all acknowledge that there's never going to be enough charity in the world to solve this problem. You're never going to dig enough wells. That's not the way to do it. And what you really need are smart solutions, and one of which Gary White has pioneered, called water credit, which is using the ideas behind microfinance, but it's not a typical micro loan, because those are obviously given. Those are given. You know, you take out customary loans. You take the loan and you show the banker your business plan, and they sign off on it, and you go and you use the loan to start your business. What Gary figured out was that you could actually, that in a lot of these particularly urban situations, a lot of these slums, the municipality was pumping water right through a neighborhood, and they'd pump it to kind of a communal water source. So if you're living in one of these slums in India, you maybe have to walk every Wednesday. You have to walk a half a mile and sit in a line of people waiting to fill up your jugs to get your water. most of these people have jobs, and they're taking time away from their job in order to go on this water collection. And so what Gary figured was, well, how much does it cost to just connect to the water source? And so if you could give somebody a $75 loan, they could connect. They could just put the pipe right into their house. And these loans, we underwrote a lot of these loans and worked with local partners in these communities, and they were so successful that now we've gotten out of the way and commercial capital has come in. And I sat with a branch manager of a bank in India who said, I'm going to call every branch manager in India and let them know that these are really great loans because they pay back at such a high rate, and you're being introduced to a whole new level of customer. And so there are solutions like that are going to be the answer. What it's going to take is a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of brain power, and that's the exciting thing, to try to be in a position to try to catalyze some of that and capture some of that, and unite some of that, and throw it at this giant problem. Because the mistake that a lot of people make is they look for a magic bullet, and it's never going to be one thing. The water crisis is big and complex, and there are going to be different solutions depending on the local conditions. It's not just about digging a well. It's not this kind of paternalistic, come in, leave a well, and get out. It's about engaging the local community. And we saw in Ethiopia that people are drinking this filthy water, and there was this incredibly elaborate well that an Indian NGO had put in, and it was an incredibly kind thing. And so clearly they'd raised money, 10 years ago, and well-meaning people had put in money, and they'd bought this state-of-the-art well. The problem was when it broke down, there was no one who could fix it, and the parts weren't available in rural Ethiopia that could be used to fix the well. And even if the parts were there was no expertise. And so that is a good example of what we really don't want to do. The well-meaning part we want, but it's about smart solutions, and it's about making sure that we all have some skin in the game. We all take ownership of these programs because all solutions are local, and so you need to engage the local community. Well, it's starting to get really exciting because it feels like people are starting to become aware of Water.org, and that's really exciting for me and for Gary and for everybody at Water.org. We really feel that we have a pretty ambitious mission statement. We envision the world in which everybody has access to clean water, and there are about 1 billion people who don't. So, but we feel when we talk internally, or we genuinely feel like we can solve this problem. And it starts to get exciting when I'm walking down the street and people come up and they want to talk about this stuff. And the more people who start to become aware of it, because that's obviously how it's going to be, how we're going to beat this thing. It's people getting engaged and getting involved, and it feels like we're approaching that tipping point where enough people say, enough, and take action, and we're getting close to that. And once we get there, things are going to move really fast.